Hi everybody, welcome back to Living with the Gregorys and our second edition of our What We Ate This Week video. So I'm just going to go through everything we bought. So we get our shopping from Tesco's, I'll show you what we bought, how much we spent, and then I'll share the recipes with you. So today we've got 2 cucumbers, broccoli, British large flat mushrooms, red onion, salad tomatoes, some perfectly imperfect parsnips, which do look a bit odd if I must say so myself, so, but happy to, yeah. Grapes, British baby chestnut mushrooms, but also some chestnut mushrooms. One of them was meant to be normal, but they got substituted. And then we've got 2 low-fat natural yogurts, a creme fraiche, dried rosemary, and then this was a substitute, so we've got 2 beer battered cod fillets, so meant to just be normal. We've got the finest ones. I know. And at Tesco's you don't pay extra, which is nice. One of the shops, they charge you extra, don't they, for subs? If
yeah, is that Morrison's for Amazon, maybe?
I think so, yeah. And then our medium Hovis loaf, that was a substitute as well. We'd ordered thick.
Yeah.
And then we've got Italian grated cheese, mozzarella ball, Dairy Dunkers for Simon. Then we've got some rigatoni pasta, panko breadcrumbs, basmati rice, because I don't think we've...
That'd be my mum.
I don't think we've quite got enough. Olive oil, because I ran out last week. Mushy peas, which Simon's going to turn his nose up, but that's to go with my fish and chips.
Yeah. I could have a teaspoonful.
Oh, okay, I'll have a little bit.
I might push the boat out.
Lamb mince, diced chicken breast and pork sausages, and that came to £44. And then this week we've got a couple more HelloFresh recipes and then just a couple of things that we had left over from last week. So we're having jacket potatoes, which we already had, gammon egg and chips, which we've still got from last week, which are fine. Rosemary lamb and mushroom rigatoni, so that is a HelloFresh recipe. That one's really nice, so I'll share that with you. And then we've also got the chicken and mushroom crumble, which is also a HelloFresh recipe. So you cook that and you bake it with kind of the breadcrumbs on top and the cheese, and then put that on rice. Then we've got cod and chips, and then we're going to do like a tray bake with sausage and roasted veg. And then I'm also going to be making a pasta salad for my lunches this week, and it's going to be more of like a Greek salad, but instead of feta, because I don't like feta, I'm doing mozzarella, so I'm sorry about that, but I don't like feta. So we'll just carry on this week showing you cooking and what everything looks like, and also we'll be posting pictures and things on our Instagram, Living with the Gregorys. If you'd like to go and follow us over there, please do. And maybe if you want to see more videos like this and are interested in fitness and weight loss, which is what we're trying to do at the moment, don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell. Hi everyone, so I'm just going to run through what we ate this week and how I cooked it. So this day we just had a really quick and easy dinner, because as you saw, we picked up the shopping on the way home, so we had limited sort of time this evening. So we just had chips, cod and mushy peas. So I'm just cutting up the potatoes, sprinkling it with salt and pepper and a little bit of oil, and putting that in the oven. And then I moved on to chopping up all the veg for my pasta salad for this week, which, to be honest with you, I didn't really enjoy. I used the same sort of ingredients as last week, really, and the same dressing, but there was just something about the dressing that tasted a bit funny. Or I added in celery, and that, I don't know whether it was that, so it was really putting me off. So I ended up making some pesto pasta, which, to be honest, wasn't that great either. The pesto wasn't that nice. I got it from Aldi. Wasn't my favourite, but you know, this is how I did it. And so I would normally do this pasta again. I would just maybe do a different dressing. So I also shredded up mozzarella on this salad. And then I'm just checking on the chips and then adding onto the tray the pieces of cod, which, as you saw earlier, these were substituted. They were beer battered and they were actually really, really tasty. I'm just going to heat up the mushy peas, which Simon didn't have in the end. And then I'm just going to add in the pasta and the veg all together and mix in with the vinaigrette for my pasta salad, and then wrap that all up and put it in the fridge ready to be stored, and then just taking a portion each day to work. So I'm just serving up dinner now. So yeah, as you can see, it's just the chips / wedges, the cod, and then I had mushy peas and Simon didn't. And it was actually really nice. We don't normally have the beer battered cod, but I would buy that again because it was really, really tasty. And so this day we actually had, it was one of my favourites, it's called chicken and mushroom crumble, and it's a HelloFresh meal. We're not sponsored by HelloFresh at all, it's just we have some menu cards left over from when we previously had the boxes, and this is one of our favourites. So I just started by shredding up the leek, which Simon then spent ages picking out of his dinner because he doesn't like leek, so I was trying to hide it. And then also just chopping up the mushrooms, so just slicing that up, and then you add that into the dish later on. So I'm just going to slice all that up, put it in the same bowl as the leeks, and give that a wash before we cook it. So for this recipe you use basmati rice, so I'm just measuring it out here, and then you just cook that with a full kettle of boiled water. So that's really easy. You know, you don't have to get another thing out to measure the water, so it's just much more straightforward. And then I'm just going to heat up the other saucepan with a little bit of oil and add in the chicken. Just keep stirring that, adding salt and pepper just for flavour, and then we add the other ingredients a bit later. So I'm just keeping an eye on my saucepan of rice there because it like to keep trying to boil over. So we just need to grate up some garlic here. The recipe asked for 2 cloves, but I had really small cloves, so I did 3. So just getting those ready to again add in later. And then here I'm measuring out the grated Italian cheese that we use for the topping and the panko breadcrumbs. I just reset the scale there and just measured those, and then you add in a tablespoon and a half of olive oil and mix that up. It was a bit dry, so I did add a bit of olive oil, and yes, I am using a child spoon there. So just mixing that up to the same consistency as I've had before, keeping an eye on the rice and the chicken, and then adding in the leeks and the mushrooms to the chicken and giving that a stir around and letting that cook along with the garlic. So you actually put this dish in an oven-proof dish. You put the dish in a dish. Yep, that's right, that got me confused. To put in the oven once you put the topping on. So I'm just measuring out the creme fraiche to add into this. I think next time I'd add a little bit more, just to make it the sauce a little bit more runny. But we just add that in over a couple of times just to let that melt. And then later we'll add that to the oven-proof dish. So then once you've done that, you add the breadcrumb and the cheese mixture to the top. Just spread that around, and then it gets really nice and crispy and the cheese melts, and it's a really nice topping. I did add on some extra grated cheese just because we had it. Didn't want it to go to waste. And then you dish it up with the rice on the bottom, and then add the crumble mixture on top. And as I said, this is one of our favourites. We've had it many, many times before, and Simon hasn't picked out the leeks, but today he wasn't feeling the leeks. So he sat there picking it out. And so then the next meal that we did this week was the rosemary lamb and mushroom rigatoni. So I'm just getting the water on to boil there for the pasta and measuring it out, just so I make sure I'm following the recipe. Don't want to go rogue. So that's 180 grams of pasta for 2 people, and then I'm just measuring out the mushrooms, getting those all ready. So it's 150 grams of mushrooms, and then some garlic, grated garlic cloves, and then I'm just slicing up the washed mushrooms just so they're ready to go into the dish a little bit later. I think one of these recipes called for standard mushrooms. Yeah, so the chicken and mushroom crumble only asked for just standard mushrooms. This one was especially chestnut mushrooms, but my other mushrooms got substituted for chestnut mushrooms anyway, so I just used those for both. And then just adding the mince in with a bit of salt and pepper and cooking that up. Just keeping an eye on that, keeping stirring it whilst I'm just measuring out everything else. So I measured out the Italian grated cheese, and then I'm just measuring out the rest of the creme fraiche for this recipe. It does call for like fresh rosemary, but I didn't have that, so I just used dried rosemary. Just trying to use whatever I've got in the cupboard so I don't have to spend a huge amount on lots of fresh things that I'm not going to use in any other dishes that week. So I'm just adding in the garlic here and just mixing it all together and adding in the rosemary. It also calls for some red wine vinegar. In the HelloFresh recipe, it just says 1 sachet, so I just put in a little bit of that and then add it in the creme fraiche and just mix that all around. And so you let that kind of thicken up. Whilst I'm doing that, I will drain off the pasta and get that ready, and then you add in the Italian grated cheese. It just says add a little bit, let it melt, and add a little bit more, and then you mix in the pasta and then just make sure that's all combined, and then you can serve it up. And again, this dish is really, really nice. We'll definitely be having this again. I think next week we're having a barbecue beef pasta, so I'm looking forward to that as well. And that's the finished product. So this evening we were having a sausage and a roasted vegetable tray bake. We often do this with sausage or chicken thighs or something. It's just something really easy that I can sometimes prepare in the morning, put some foil on it, put it in the fridge, and then Simon will put it in the oven when he gets home. Because it takes a little bit longer to cook, he gets home earlier than me, so it can just be cooking while I'm driving. But as you will see, I started cutting up the parsnips, but then I noticed they were a bit rotten, so I put those aside. So this time we've just gone for new potatoes that I've cut up, carrots. We usually cut up some flat mushrooms. Also, I normally put in broccoli, but I forgot. I found it in the fridge a few days later and then realised I was meant to put it in there because we really like roasted broccoli. I like boiled broccoli, but Simon's not that keen. So I also added in some shallots, added in the sausages, and just bunged it all in there. I did realise I hadn't put any oil on it later, so I went back and sprinkled that on. But that's the finished dish. And then this evening, so Friday I was actually out for work, so I didn't cook like a big meal at home. Simon just ordered something for him, and then on Saturday we were out over dinner, so just had like a small snack. And then this evening, which was Sunday, we were just going to have some gammon, egg and chips. I actually ordered the gammon a few weeks ago, but it had a really long date on it, so we were using this up. And then my mum has chickens, so we were having some of her free range eggs. And then homemade chips. And my mum actually bought me some gin back from Edinburgh, so I had a little gin and tonic there while I was waiting for the chips, and just give those a mix around. And then I used the George, as I call it, to cook the gammon steaks, but as it can only take one because it's small, I cooked one, put it in a bit of foil, cooked the other one, and then that's done. And we had some mushrooms left over from earlier in the week. I had a couple of flat mushrooms, a few more chestnut mushrooms, so I just thought I'd use those up. I wasn't planning on it, but they were in the fridge, so I cut those up, mix those and cook those up. And then I'm just cracking the eggs and going to fry those up. And yes, I am frying it in a saucepan because my big frying pan, I've had to throw it out because the coating was coming off of the bottom. This didn't work that well. It was a bit odd, but it was okay. So I'm just going to dish that up, and then that's it for this week. So we'll have a short week of meals next week because we're going on holiday, but please check it out and subscribe.